my group did the bonus project over the library, and see, as you can see, we started off with a couple functions, and let's see, we're just gonna walk through those and one by one and see what we did. So we started off with actually before we even built the functions, we built two structs, one for the book, and it has the name, author, title, and things like that. And then we have one of the members, uh, also the name, department, and a card, like basically if they checked out anything, just to see if they checked out anything. And let's see, and we have a couple files that we make and input. And starting off with the first function here, we have add book. Well, let's start off with the main function. Let's see. We print off the title, we print off the menu. We just had everything as text rather than have like a window or anything like that. We just found it to be simpler. And let's see. The first thing we do once we have the menu is we ask for a choice. Well, that's the name of the variable we use. But depending on what that what the user inputs, then we go from there and call the different methods depending on what they want to input. And that looks a little bit like this. See, when everything prints out. See, this is all the functions we have and into letter choice. See, moving back, you can see that, see, it start off with add book. See, in this function, we open up mylibrary.txt, and we start off by we add in the book. You want to start off with the ID, so we start off with the ID, and we scan that in, and then we scan in the name of the book, and then the name of the author, and then we print all of that information into the file, my library. And then we close that file, and then we print off this line just so the user knows the book has been added. Let's see, to demonstrate that, let's see, we can just press A real quick. Let's see here, add book to library, and it asks for the unique ID. We're just gonna put a 1 here, and the name, let's call it book 1, and then author, let's call it author 1 as well. All right, let's see. It prints out the menu again. It's kind of like an error on our parts. We couldn't figure out a way to not have that. It's one of our mistakes, but the book has been added. As you can see, it was successfully added, and you can actually see my library.txt. This is the ID, the book name, and then the author. So it does print out, it makes the text file if it's not already one there, and it prints out the correct information. Let's see. Moving on from there, let's see, display book. So this basically, we actually didn't use this method, it's not complete. We was gonna display all the information that the book has, such as like the check-in date, but we couldn't finish it. So we did finish, however, search for the book, so we know it at least exists. And to do that, we made a couple variables. Again, we opened up the My Library file, and see if it existed. If not, then we kind of made one. And we started off with asking the user for the name of the book they want to look for. Let's see, and while the library was basically still open, if it wasn't found, then it would scan through all of the books and find it. Let's see, and if it's found, it returns a 1 here, and let's see, and let's see, it returns like the titles of the book. Since we only have one book in our library, an example, then we'll only find our book. And let's see, once it's found, book status, it checks if it's in or out, like checked in or in or out, and it prints out that information to the user. So to demonstrate that, let's see, we're just going to run this again. see, and we're gonna use S. We're gonna search for book. The name of the book, let's see, book 1, and you see, we have the information right here. Unique ID, which was 1, name, book 1, author was author 1, and it is still in the library, but we haven't checked it out. Alright, moving on from there, let me collapse this. We have the author. And to do the author, basically, it was just a method that to basically look for the book depending on what the author was. And again, it's kind of like the search for book, but search for book by using the author. And it uses the same method. We go through the library file and we check the author of the books. And if we find it, then we print out the information. If not, then we print out there's no such entry. So to demonstrate that one, so you can move back over here. We can run it again. We weren't able to have it consistent where I would always go back to the menu. It would just kept on looping up. So it was like a glitch again on our part. And see, so have Q there. The author, I use author 1. And see, books, and the book, only books underneath author 1 is again book 1. So we have that information. All right. Next up, we have stock. So it shows all of the books we have, like the complete book list. And doing that, again, we're going to open up the My Library file, if it exists, and we would basically just go through it, and if it's in, it's counted as in, and we print out how many books we have basically, and then it prints out that to the console. Let's see, let's demonstrate that real quick. Let's run it again, and let's see, do that. Let's see, count of issued books. It says 0, and not too sure. It should say 1 theoretically. Again, the code is a little sketchy. We wasn't able to finish everything, but normally it would say 1 book in stock, and we haven't issued anything out, so this is correct as saying 0. Alright. Let's see. Moving on. Let's see. Now it becomes the member. We were able to ask the user if they was a librarian or a borrower, but we weren't able to differentiate the commands for those, such that if you're a librarian, you will be able to add books. Borrowers aren't allowed to add books, things of that nature. We weren't able to have that set up just because of the time constraints. But basically, this asks for the user ID and then the name and department. And then it puts that information to a file called user info, and then it prints out new member added successfully when it's been added. So you see, you can go back here, we run that again, and let's see, add new member, we're gonna hit M. Let's see, user ID, let's again just go with 1. Name, let's see, my name is Moses. And department, let's say I'm a librarian. So I'm gonna put it L. Alright, you can see right here it prints out. Let's see, new member has successfully added, and it also created this text file right here, userinfo.txt, where it displays the user ID, which is 1 in this case, the name, and the status. Alright, let's come off that. Issue is what we named the function to check out a book. And let's see. First, we see if a member is available to check out a book. So basically, if it's the borrower, but we weren't able to quite get it locked down on if it's the borrower, you can only check out a book. Like librarians can check out books. It's just in general. If it's a user that wants to check out a book, they can. It sees if there's a user in the first place using the this if statement right here, see if this file exists, and if it's not empty, that means it's at least one user in the system, and it gets that information, and it sees if it has, since we weren't able to incorporate the borrower librarian system, we chose to do a library cards-ish system to see if they were eligible to check out a book. Kind of like the same thing, but just less code. Right, and so we have the library card available. It just checks that, and then we have, let's see, um, it just asks the user to enter the name of the book they want to check out. Let's see, and then let's see, it says if that books exist basically using the library. It checks to see if the library has that book, and if it doesn't, if that file is empty. If it does, then it basically rescans the author's name, not the author's name, the user, and it puts in the file that the user has at least one book checked out. It basically checks out the book that way, and it also changes the status of the book to out instead of in. Let's see, you can see that, and you can see right here if it's already issued, then it will print out this statement as somebody else has the book. And let's see. Alright, and that's basically how I just explained right here. If they're able to check out the book, they will, and then all the updated information in the system. We weren't also able to incorporate the date, the return time, and stuff like that. Um, Again, we weren't able to finish everything, but we tried. See, to check out a book, that will be function O. Alright, user ID of the member, I've been putting 1. Let's see, and the name of the book I want to check out is book 1. Alright, so I successfully checked out book 1 right here, and it prints out that. Let's see. And then let me see if I can show the updated information in my library. For some reason it's not there, which is weird. I guess let's see, when you check it out, it kind of disappears. Let's see, code's not perfect, unfortunately. Let's condense that. And let's see, book return. If you want to return said book, it's basically the same information. Um, they check to see if the user has the book, if the user exists, and then if the user has a book. And if they have the book, then they basically return the book by updating the information connected to the book. So it'll be changed back from out back to in, and then the user information along the card would status would change to mean that they don't have anything checked out anymore. Let's see. And then you can, if a user can check out multiple books. So if you wanted to check out multiple books, or return just what you have multiple books checked out, and you want to just return one of them, it would ask name of the book you want to return, and it will see if that book is in the library, and if it's not, then it will print out this statement right here. Let's see, and then this is the rest of information updating in the system, just making sure if the book has already been returned, it will print out this right here, and if it hasn't, um, yeah, if it hasn't, then it would just return the book, basically by updating all the information. Um, so let's do a demonstration of that one real quick, and see, return the book. I'm gonna hit R, say user ID, my book 1, and we're gonna put in book 1. Right. Because our library for some reason says it's empty, then it says no such book exists. But in an ideal case, then it would say the book had been successfully returned. Let's see. Alright, move on from there. We just got a couple more left. Let's see, we can do this real fast. Alright, and actually the last code is exit, which is right here. Let's see. And that basically, when a user would finish up, it's usually supposed to go back to the menu, but we couldn't quite get it back. That's why I'm running it every time. You would just hit X, and it will close out the console. So that's basically all we have. Like I said, we wasn't able to get everything in there, just due to the time constraints. But we tried to get the main things, the main functions working, and that's all we got. You know, thanks for watching.